question would be why you think it's something that is so of common sense to orientate, to focus economy to the common wells and the common goals that has a society, why it is so difficult to execute it?
Because there are narratives which have been related by economists, by economic scientists, that tell us a different story from that story that lies in all of our hearts. I met people from all over the world and they say, of course, that's it. Why shouldn't we behave as humans in the economy as well? And all over the history of economic thought, from the ancient Greeks up to Adam Smith and up to today's constitutions, there is a huge consensus that says the economy should be about the common good and its creation. And only economic textbooks and economists tell us a different story. They write in their textbooks that companies should strive for the maximization of financial profit, and then that we should measure the success of a nation with the financial and monetary GDP. These are two different, even opposed stories. It was already Aristotle who said the economy, the oikonomia, the original one, is about the creation of the well-being of all household members. It's about the creation of the common good. And if people strove for money or the increase of capital and material goods first and foremost, this wouldn't be at all an oikonomia. It would turn the oikonomia in its opposite, in chrematistike, in his times, the art of making money and enrich oneself. And today we'd call it capitalism. So it's about the distinction between a true economy, which is by definition an economy for the common good, and capitalism, which is the opposite of a true economy.
I'm an economist, and I don't like very much the movement against capitalism because it's a wrong understanding of capitalism. I mean, capitalism, the word, it just means that we use money to make the economy run somehow. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have to base your whole growth on the higher profits. I mean, it could be interpreted. I mean, in Germany we have like the mercado, the market, the social market economy, which is far away from what you propose, but it could come close. I mean, why we have these two opposition, this movement against money, but money moves everything, and then on the other hand, the willing of the people that really the society, the politicians do much more for the society than they do right now.
It's not against money. It's not against capital. It's not against market. We have to differentiate and be very clearly, and never mess with the linguist, because capitalism, by definition, the term, elevates capital into a goal in and of itself. That's why we say capitalism.
Yeah.
If capital was just a means, then we would not call that order capitalism. We would call it a common good economy, which uses capital, which uses investment, which uses money, and which uses markets. But markets are not the goal, and increasing money and capital is not the purpose. They are just means. And that was the message of Aristotle. Use these means, these material means, as resources, but always bear the goal in mind. And the goal has to be the common good, or the well-being of all household members, or a good life for everybody. And now what's the huge difference? Why we should differentiate capitalism and economy? Because we would measure success differently, and we would steer the whole economy on all levels, on the national level, on the company's level, and on the level of investments and finance, according to different goals. In capitalism, we strive for the increase of the monetary GDP, because we think if GDP rises, everything else will improve as well. On the meso level of companies, we strive for the improvement of the financial results of the financial balance sheet. And on the micro level of investments, we strive for the financial return of investment. But there is one rule. This says we have to measure success according to the achievement of the goal. And the goal, not only according to Aristotle, but according to our today's democratic constitutions, is the common good. The Bavarian constitution, for instance, says the whole economic activity in its entirety serves the common good. And methodologically correct is to measure success according to the achievement of the goal, with a common good product, with a common good balance sheet, and with a common good investment exam, using money and capital only as means, but not turning them into goals. Common good.
There are already sort of companies that work that way, cooperatives, Genossenschaften. I don't know what, I think it's cooperatives in English. I mean, like here in Spain, you have Mondragon, Cooperación Mondragon. It's I think the biggest one in the world for industrial goods, and they have different values and work in a different way, and the employees are participating in the benefit. Is that a benchmark for you, or you want to create a completely new sort of company? Because with a common the common Rechtsform, the
legal form.
So legal forms that we have right now, it's probably difficult to do what you want to do, no, with your balance sheet.
Not necessarily. Actually, there are very diverse legal forms at the moment. There are cooperatives and associations and not-for-profit companies and public companies. And there are capital companies, limited companies, and shareholder companies. We think there is already a nice diversity of different legal forms of companies, and all of them can do the common good balance sheet. So it's not first and foremost about the legal form. It's first and foremost about the purpose of the company, its vision and its statutes and bylaws, and its strategy accordingly. It's absolutely possible that a shareholder company commissions the CEO and the executives to pursue social and ecological goals first and foremost, and to include them in their dashboards, in their management dashboards. That's absolutely possible. But the precondition is that economics textbooks give us this choice. Today, economics textbooks don't give us any choice. They don't offer an alternative. They just say a company is an organization that strives for the maximization of financial profits. End of the story. There's no alternative. But they should at least inform us that there are other companies. And a company or an organization could equally be an organization that strives for the common good. And accordingly, it gives more importance to the common good balance sheet. And if policymakers and regulators like it, they give priority to these more ethical companies.
I, just to make it more real for the people, I want to give you some concrete examples, and I would like to know your opinion about how to deal with it. Like right now, because everything has to do as well with the climate change and what we have to do in the future. And there is already a change of mindset of the consumer. Now he's already going for he's looking after, the companies that are ethical somehow, somewhat at least. So in a case like what happened in Murcia now with the Mar Menor, where really private companies, like farming companies, but not the big corporations, but small or medium companies that really didn't respect the rules. Some of them were illegal. How would you organize because now they're thinking about reorganizing all this? How would you, especially the agriculture, which is really a huge factor in the whole climate change thing? How would you? It should be a good segment to apply a common goods balance sheet, but are they open for it?
Some of them. There is always diverse audience, and some pioneers are already starting. We have several farmers, even from Andalusia, amongst the companies that are doing common good balance sheet. Subetica Ecologica is one example from Andalusia. And more gardeners and farmers that, of course, are organic farmers. That's a precondition, not a formal one, but the logical one. If you want to contribute to the common good, you have to start with not doing harm anymore. And
so macro granja, these big, huge animal farms can't be part of it, of course, because some of them say they really treat the animals well and stuff.
If you do harm, and we know just one example, we know from experts, from animal welfare experts and veterinarians, we know that pigs feel best in a group of 7. This is the maximum welfare, animal welfare we know. So, of course, a stable with 1,000 pigs or even more is not the benchmark. And if a farm keeps doing harm, then it fulfills our so-called negative aspects, and then it loses a huge amount of common good points in the common good balance sheet, which it will never be able to compensate any longer. So it all starts with not doing harm any longer, and this means small groups of animals. It means no pesticides, no chemical fertilizers, and it means even increasing. Then it's about increasing the soil fertility. It's about increasing the quality of the groundwater, and it's about increasing air quality and fading 100% out of fossil fuels. And this is the incentive framework. The more farmers approach to these new goals, the better their common good balance sheet, and only then they get subsidies, and only then they get public contracts, and only then they will have a lower tax rate, and only then they get access to international markets. And we would even go to the property rights. So maybe there will be a maximum size for real estate property, and farmers that have no good common good balance sheet result, they can have some hectares or a few hectares. But if they have a better common good balance sheet result, then they can cultivate more hectares. Of course, again, up to a certain limit. But there are so many tools and potential incentives to promote and foster those farms that are not only stopping to do harm, but they start to do good. It's about regeneration. It's about increasing soil fertility. It's about negative carbon emissions. And it's about not only stabilizing, but increasing biodiversity. These are the new benchmarks, which are finally meaningful goals and purposes of agriculture, whereas the financial figures, they are pushed back to the second level. They have nothing to do in the front line. The front line is about goals and values, and financial goals never have been the first and foremost goals. They're just means. They are a condition which companies and organizations have to meet to be able to fulfill their goals. But the most important success measurement and the most important dashboard figures are the ethical figures.
You have been quite successful with your ideas in Spain, which was surprising to me, because I don't see that the society is so ecological minded as, for instance, in Germany or Austria or Switzerland. How you explain the success that you already have with concrete examples, like I think the Valencia University, some companies in Valencia, and another university, I think, in Spain. Can you explain the contradiction probably with it? I mean...
I only can guess why there is not only the first chair economy for the common good at the University of Valencia. We will have our second scientific conference there in March of 2022. A network of universities all over the country has been established, and there is a strong enthusiasm. And my guess is why this enthusiasm. Because it's easy to create enthusiasm in Spain. That's one reason.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
just one of one of several.
Yeah.
The second one was the relative crisis in Spain. The financial crisis hit the country stronger than other countries. That's a second explanation. A third one is that in the history of Spain, collaborative, social, and solidarity economy played a stronger role. So it's not that new, at least considering a certain sector. And maybe the last one, social cohesion and strong relationships, which is the fundament of an economy for the common good. Strong human relationships and communities is something the Spanish know a little bit better than the Germans, for instance.
True. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
That's why they're more receptive to this proposal.
Is there any big company that already said, yeah, we go for it? Because that would really be like a breakthrough, no? If a big company like L'Oreal or whatever.
Yeah, it would definitely be a breakthrough. We wished for a certain time SAP to be our first multinational. Up to date, they did not approve the decision. And we are in touch with 5 to 7 companies from the German stock market, from the Frankfurt stock market index. And several of them have even participated in scientific studies from the universities of Kiel and Flensburg, how it would be if they did a common good balance sheet.
Okay.
But none of them has dared to make the step. Why? Because there are alternative instruments with no negative aspect, where they only can have a positive score, and which I would call them greenwashing instruments. But if the policymakers do not oblige companies to fulfill one standard, as it's the case with the financial balance sheet. With the financial balance sheet, companies cannot choose, I take this standard, I take that more this fancier standard, or this one which is not so strict. With the ethical balance sheet, this is not the case yet. So they still can choose. And every major company has any sustainability report mechanism. But the common good balance sheet is probably the benchmark in town. Maybe there are 2 or 3 others which are equally strict. But as already said, we have a score that is comparable in points with the perspective to pay higher or lower tax rates. That's regulation. And I don't know any other instrument that is that strict. And that's why the biggest company so far that we have is the state forest in Baden-Württemberg. They have 8,000 employees. And then we have about 5 companies between 1,000 and 5,000 employees, both from the social and health sector, but even one pharmaceutical company.
But what about companies like Ringana in Austria? They cosmetic and natural cosmetics and sustainability, they promote all this. They should immediately say, okay, we do that.
Yeah, we are offering Ringana to do the common good balance sheet, but it's their decision. I would like to mention Grüne Erde, which is a company with 400, and this is rather typical of our network. We have those smaller or medium-sized family-owned companies that do the common good balance sheet, and Grüne Erde, for instance, has decided on the base of the first common good balance sheet to eliminate all flights that are paid by the company. So they're not paying a single flight any longer, because they thought, we're not flying a lot, we're just flying to our affiliates in Germany, but then they calculated how much they fly, and it was twice around the world. And they were a little bit shocked, and they said, okay, that's too much, and we eliminate the whole flight budget, cut it to 0, and instead we invest in a video conference technology in order to choose a more sustainable path for this issue.
You never thought about setting up an auditing company, or you have an auditing company? Because someone has to control these balance sheets.
Of course, and there are already environmental auditors. There are EMAS auditors that already exist, aside the financial auditors with a totally different expertise, but they're actually doing the same. They are evaluating externally information that flows out of a company, and we have created the common good auditors.
Okay, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. But there will always, of course, the problem of corruption and greenwashing. And I mean, as soon as you say, I can imagine that many companies say that are afraid. As soon as they say, we do this, they are watched like 200%. I mean, so they can't do anything wrong anymore. And if you're at stock exchange, it's very, very dangerous, I think.
The risk of corruption or manipulation is lower than with the financial balance sheet. Why? The financial balance sheet of a company is deeply understood only by the financial auditors. And they are legally liable for that information being correct. And this is not a 100% guarantee that the whole financial information publicly available is correct, but it's a certain assurance. It's sufficient assurance, as the financial auditors say. With the ethical information, it's easier because the ethical information, human rights, internal democracy, involvement of consumers, this is information that almost everybody understands. And if there was something irritating or wrong, then it could be revised by far more easily than financial data. So the risk of being catched if a company tries two things it has to try. It has to manipulate ethical information and to corrupt the common good auditor, and then not being caught by someone who is aware and awake. And I think it's more difficult to manipulate and to corrupt with the ethical information than with the financial information.
Okay, thank you very much. We're running out of time in Zoom. Thank you very much. And when you're in Spain, whenever you are in Madrid, whatever, give me a call. I'm really interested in this because I completely share your ideas. I just see that greed is really is so human, and it will probably make it impossible to really execute it on a bigger scale.
Are we still in the interview, or is this?
No. This is in the interview still.
Is it still in the interview? Yeah. Well, I see. Greed is just one option. Also, killing is an option.
Yeah.
But our genes do not force us neither to kill someone nor to be greedy. These are just options, and all depends on the decision on the collective decision. If you promote greed, if you promoted killing, we would have many killings, but we punish killing, and we should at least disincentivize greed. And today that's not the case.
Yeah, that's true.
There is no limit to income inequality or to wealth inequality. But if we disincentivized extreme inequality, then people would not, or even cap inequality, that's what we propose, then people would not strive that strongly forevermore. And the first concrete example of applied economy for the common good is the city of Portland in the United States. They punish companies which allow an inequality level of 100 times between the highest and the lowest pay, with an additional corporate profit tax of 10%. And if inequality grows more than 250 times between the highest and the lowest pay, then the additional profit tax amounts to 25%. That's a very clear and strong disincentivation of greed, of extreme inequality. And that's just a more intelligent and a more just design of the economy. And then companies will behave differently, and greed will play a smaller role than it does today.
Okay, let's hope. Let's hope so. We need change. Thank you very much, Christian. And
You're welcome.
someday in Spain somewhere.
That's it.